Like David alluded to, Annette Morgan at Curtin University set up Australia's first pro bono university-based tax clinic 18 months ago now. And since then, we've had 9 other universities with some federal government funding, very modest, sign on and provide a nationwide network of university-based free tax clinics. And the quirk has been that each university has been given a fair amount of flexibility to adapt to its own geographic location and other parameters to make sure that it can target the community that it serves in the best way. So that's worked quite well so far. We're currently, as of next month, going to be part of a Treasury evaluation of the success of the clinics, so watch this space. A lot will be happening in the next few months. But just to, I guess, mirror the previous session on the UK clinic experience, I might just provide a top-level overview of how the clinic has benefited our students, the other stakeholders that we're hoping to benefit, and then looking at some of the issues that when we were launching we had to overcome. Like David mentioned, I'm at UNSW in Sydney, and one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we gave our students was the opportunity to not just develop their tax technical skills, but also their professional skills, and to encourage more emotional intelligence in the way that they dealt with clients and provide them with a very safe, insulated space where they were under constant supervision by a registered tax agent to do so, and then have ongoing carriage of client files, and that's been very successful so far. The students have provided glowing reviews. They just finished, we just finished our first term of offering this course, which is what we call a work integrated learning course. So students enrol in this 4-credit, have 10 weeks of 1 full day a week in the clinic, and report back to us with any systemic issues, any problems that they've encountered that gives us an opportunity to also provide grassroots research. So there's a bit of a research imperative as well as a teaching imperative in all of this. And beyond that too, one of the potentially quirks with Australia's system is that we don't actually have, as part of law access or legal aid or legal clinics, the opportunity to provide free tax advice at all. And so if a client has an issue, when they go to a financial counsellor or to a legal clinic that has anything to do with tax, they're told, sorry, that's beyond the scope. And so there's actually a fairly significant gap, and we're finding that the students are working with people with historic issues, health issues, that they otherwise wouldn't have the chance to help. And so there's a huge aspect of supporting the community that comes out from this too. And then that takes us to the supervisors. So they're all registered tax agents, fairly senior professionals, because we want to make sure that we're entrusting the client advice, quality assurance in safe hands. And they've found that it's been incredibly rewarding for them too. It's provided a platform for skills-based volunteering. And we're looking at, actually had a call earlier today with one of the Big Four who's looking to support us by providing us with 2 to 3 year graduates who are looking at the next stage of their careers. And this is a great way to do 2 things for them. 1, give them a bit more responsibility on client files and decision making, but also 2, help them with that skills-based volunteering that's really satisfying use of their tax technical skills. Looking a little bit more broadly beyond students and the profession and clients, obviously, is at our core. What we found with clients is different to what we expected. So a lot of our clients have had, in addition to tax debts, very significant gambling debts, mental health issues. The majority of our clients have underlying mental health problems, and we have been providing our students and our staff as a result mental health training, so as part of our full day induction. And we've found that the clients have had such positive interactions and such a relief that there's one less thing for them to worry about. So to give you an idea of our client base, and it will vary across clinic, but because of the way that we've targeted clients by getting direct referrals from financial counsellors, we've got on average 9 years of outstanding returns per client, on average around $50,000 of ATO debts per client. And so we're looking at fairly dire situations, people on the brink of bankruptcy and not being able to afford tax help at all. And so this is hopefully filling a gap in the market, and we're looking to work increasingly closely with financial counsellors and legal clinics as well. So I've gone on a little bit and monopolised the time, so I might pause there for now, and very happy to take any questions and again put our heads together to see how we can work on growing and developing this community across borders too. Thank you.
Has anybody got any questions or comments that they want to raise now, or leave it till after we've each week? Okay.
Some insights from New Zealand, please.
Okay. I guess our major insight, and I'm not aware of anyone yet that's gone down the specific type of tax clinic. A number of the law schools do run the sort of general law clinics, and at my one at the University of Canterbury, they've said, well, if we get tax people, we'll call upon you, because I'm actually in the business school, but we've only ever had one person who's come in for that, and it was actually too complex for us. So I've got a number of contacts that I know in the smaller firms, and so we sent them out to there. I said, look, this is beyond us, and we certainly don't have any students who would do it. Part of the reason, I guess, it's not as big an issue is if you're not aware in New Zealand that if you're just an ordinary wage and salary earner or somebody who's got dividend, interest income, you don't actually file tax returns. And that's because that we don't have any deductions. So it's very straightforward, it's all done at source. If there's any issues, that's normally, if it's with your employer, that gets sorted out between the revenue and the employer. Where there could be issues, and this is where there is a gap, is with the small business and self-employed people who, like most of the world, have got issues about expenses, etc. So if we were to look to go into that area, that would be our target group. And in many ways, some of that group, they're not going to be interested by Big Four or the mid-tier, it's going to be the smaller firms, and so some of them might actually find benefits. So that's something to be thinking about. Also earlier today we heard about internships. We offer those through the business school, and the law school does some as well. It was actually amazing to hear that the students get paid over here. Yeah, that's amazing. We don't have the money to do that. Sometimes someone who's taking them on as the firm or whatever, they might give some sort of recognition, and then that's going to be carefully done in the agreement. So we don't have an employment contract, but we do have an agreement, and there's a lot of things to go through. The main reason that the firm's interested in that is that this is try before you buy. This is getting someone who might become a good graduate to take on. So most of them are doing it if it's a 3-year degree at the end of their second year, so they get a potential insight, and then they could even have their employer signed up before they finish the third year. For law students, if they do it, it tends to be the end of third year because it's a 4-year process for doing a law degree. The first year is a sort of general one, then 3 years of law across the board. So yeah, it's I guess partly because it's a relatively speaking simpler system in New Zealand, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't explore looking at tax clinics, particularly for the self-employed and small businesses.
And picking up Yvonne's bit, do your lawyers hate numbers as well?
If they're not doing double degrees. So to be fair, probably of the tax students that I even have from the business side, a large chunk of them who are also doing law degrees. So they're the ones who love the numbers. The ones who do, we have one optional law course, so it's pretty much the same across all the New Zealand universities, that if you're in a law school and there's a tax paper, it's optional, but most of them do offer it. We don't get big numbers. We probably get about 40 to 50 students, which is very small compared to our business student course numbers. But yeah, most of them don't like numbers, so we don't do too much, but we do give them just a few numbers to make them realise that even if they think they're only going to go in and give advice, often there's going to be numbers tied up in it, and to remind them that numbers are important to them personally, like how much are they going to earn, what are they going to bill, and all those sorts of things become important. So I'll leave that as an introduction.
Okay, thank you very much. So David introduced me earlier, but my name is Tanya Hill, and I'm from the University of Pretoria in South Africa. So it was very interesting for me to hear about these tax clinics and also the tax aid that you have here in the UK, because we don't really have something similar in South Africa. Firstly, with the tax aid, we don't really have a charity that assists people in completing tax returns or with tax issues. Our Revenue Authority offers that assistance to our residents, so they're welcome to walk in. Whether they get sufficient help, I'm really not sure. I think probably not. So that's something that's really interested me in what you do here, because I think there's such a need. We have a large population and a very large segment of the population being uneducated and not understanding tax at all. So I think there is definitely a need in South Africa for something like that to support our taxpayers. In terms of the tax clinics, that was really interesting to me, but to give you a bit of background, most of our universities in South Africa are really, really large. For example, at our university, we have approximately 85,000 students, and from a tax perspective, on an undergraduate level, we have, in our second year course, we have over 900 students taking tax, and in our third year, over 700. So to implement something like a tax clinic it wouldn't really touch that many students. The impact wouldn't be as big. That being said, we have quite a different structure in how our professional qualifications work. We have a very formal structure in terms of our professional qualifications. So for someone to be able to register with a professional body, we have 3 stages that they have to go through. The first one is the knowledge component which they get at the university. Second to that, they are all forced to do a practical component, which is usually a 3-year, and in some instances in our tax qualification, a 2-year practical experience. So they do their undergraduate, their 3 years undergraduate degree at the university. They then do a postgraduate honours, which is a year. From that, before they enter into the practical side of the world, they write what we refer to as an initial test of competency. So we're just testing, do they have the correct knowledge? They then move into practice and work under these very structured 3-year programs where our professional bodies give specific guidance on the competencies that have to be met during that time. So it's a very formal structure. The companies have to sign them off after those 3 years to say they've met those competencies. So they really have a rigorous 3 years of getting that practical experience. So I guess for us, it hasn't necessarily been a need to have something as a tax clinic. That being said, we do like to try and give our students practical exposure. So one of the things that we do on our tax honours program, now our tax honours program is a much smaller program. Our postgraduate program can be somewhere between 30 and 40 students, so a much more manageable size of students. With those students, we do try and give them a lot of practical exposure. And as you mentioned, small businesses are an issue. So one of the projects that we do with them is we take those students to one of our other campuses, which is in Mamelodi, which is a lower earning area where people generally are not that well educated. And we take our students and they have the opportunity to share tax knowledge with those business owners. A lot of those business owners have no kind of number experience whatsoever. They're just running a business to survive, and our students meet with them during the year and they present to them and they try and offer them tax advice from that perspective. So not necessarily as formal as the tax clinics that you've been speaking about, but we do try and offer them that kind of practical exposure.